Hello, Captain VFC here with another build analysis video. This time, the Cessna C-185 Skywagon by Kovozavody Prostejov, or KP for those that don't want to break their tongue and are English speakers like me. Now, this kit I did an unboxing for back in February, and that kind of goes to show how long it's taken me to build, because it's one of those that has gone on and off the desk. It's sat there in the corner in the naughty step, and that's kind of what I want to talk about here. I'm not going to say whether it's a good or a bad kit until the end, and I'm ultimately going to let you make that decision. So just watch what happens in the background. If there's anything that you observe that you want me to clarify, just note down the time in the comment and I will get back to you as soon as I can. For now, let's just quickly talk about the interior, which is what I'm working on in the background here. I've placed the seat. It's got two pilot seats, or well, I'll say two pilot seats, two front seats, pilot, co-pilot, and a big seat at the back. The Cessna 185 was a 6-seat aircraft, so KP have given you 4 seats. Thank you very much, KP. So what I was doing there was lining up the rear seat at the very back of the cabin, and I'm now cutting 2 new seats out of plasticard. The idea being to put the rear seat right at the back, the pilot seat where they should be, and create these 2 new seats in the middle to create a 6-seat Cessna. Kind of like, you know, the C-185, like the subject matter. I must admit, I have since found some photos that show Cessnas, obviously Cessnas, I mean 185s, in 4-seat configuration, and I don't actually know if this is one, but given that this aircraft stands out as being a 6-seat Cessna as opposed to the more conventional 4-seat Cessnas, I absolutely wanted 6 seats. And so a little bit of scratch building took place. Just a flat plasticard back, a flat plasticard base, and I'll show you what I do for texture shortly. That's pretty much all I can really say about the actual subject matter. Rather than have a full history, it's a Cessna 185. It was a 6-seat single-engined light aircraft. It's, you know, a Cessna. They were produced between 1961 and 1985, with nearly 4,500 of them being built. They are distinctive in that they are tail draggers, and therefore, when Cessna reintroduced some of its earlier models, they didn't bother reintroducing this or the 180, which is what the 185 is based on, because they were sticking with more conventional tricycle undercarriage aircraft. That's it. History done. I did actually do the history over the bit where I sanded down the block. Basically, this is me testing the seats. There was a big block in the way where you would normally stick the combined double seat, and I got rid of that with a little... oh, it fell. With a little raised bit of plastic just underneath the seat. But there we go. That's how it fits. You see? Yeah, it's tight. Yeah, it's cramped. Guess what? It's a Cessna. It's not meant to be spacious. To give some semblance of the seat covering, the fabric covering, I've then put some Revell filler, I can't remember what it was called then, the Revell filler, just on the back and base. This was just crudely applied, and then even crudelier, is that a word? Crudelier? It is now. Crudelier, sanded and just given like slight texture. The interior is so small, I didn't feel that any more than that was necessary, to be honest. I don't know, you tell me when you see the end result. Do you think that that worked? Personally, quite happy with it. But yes, using one fuselage half as a guide, the bulkhead stuck on, the seats all lined up. There was a lot of dry fitting in this, especially given that I am scratch building a couple of elements of it. Every step of the way, line the fuselage floor up to the... fuselage floor? The cabin floor up to the fuselage half. Make sure everything fits. That is the big bit of advice that I can give, particularly with a KP kit. Now, on to the topic of the fact that it is a KP kit. The instructions are fine. They are mostly able to be followed, but they do have this annoying tendency to just go, you might want to fit this bit depending on which version you're doing. Really, KP? Any further hints? Which version? Maybe you could tell me which version? No? And of course, no interior painting instructions. I opted for beige, as you saw there, to represent cream, and then now the red is being applied, which is insignia red. It's a USN pre-war, or interwar, sorry, colour. It's, spoiler, the colour that I'm going to paint the outside. A lot of this is just based on Google searches. Yes, anyway. Now that the cat's out the way, seats are painted red. The floor was eventually painted grey, but this is just based on a general Google search. For example, did you know that you can buy on eBay custom fitted Cessna interiors for a few £1,000s? I didn't. I thought it may be a little bit cheeky to ask them to scale it down 72 times, so I just thought I'd paint it instead. Whilst doing some research on the interior, I did do some general investigating in the actual kit itself. Well, it appears KP have not been entirely accurate with it. In fact, the wingspan is about 2% short on the real thing. Fuselage length seems to be about fine, but the wingspan is most definitely short. It does look a bit strange. Am I going to mark down the kit because of it? Probably not. There's kind of no choice for Cessna 185. It's this in injection moulded plastic or nothing else. Right, the windows. Oh god, the windows. This killed most of a live stream. Yeah, follow me on Twitch if you want to see me cut holes in windows forever, apparently. The window frames are too small, the window pieces are too big, and the instructions tell you to put them in the wrong place and to not use two of the ones that you should use and instead use some larger ones. So this took a lot of whittling. Until eventually, on both sides, 3 windows and a bit of clear fix to hold them in. About 2 hours, I think it was, to do just one side, and then a further hour to do the other side. It was stressful. Well, here we are in the future. You notice I've changed cutting mat. This had been sitting around now for well over a month, and I thought, no, I'm going to do some more work to it. Let's go. Fuselage stuck in, little seat belts. Look, it even comes with little seat belts, and you can see the seats that I've made, and they don't look too out of place, do they? In my opinion. Let me know what you think. Even got a little decal for the instrument panel, which I think is rather nice. It's just a shame that the windows are so small, this will hardly be visible. Still, this is a short run kit. As such, no locating pins. It has the occasional locating ridge like for the main interior parts, but the fuselage halves just do it by eyeball and by feel, really. I must admit the fit was absolutely fine for this bit. You do have to grind down some of the instrument panel, which for some reason I didn't actually show, but it's better than some. The wing, however, has a rather substantial gap at the rear. The struts were put in to mostly get it all in line. Wanted to make sure that it is dead straight. It helps if you've got the struts, because if you pull one out it looks obvious, and it's a visual reminder, like a bit of a jig for assembling straight. But I still got the set square out, still wanted to make sure it was absolutely perfect. Also, quick fun fact, you notice that the wing has been painted except for where I was clearly holding it. I was just testing a grey for another kit. I can't even remember what kit it was now, but I was just testing a grey and I needed a spare bit of plastic, and the Cessna's wing was sitting next to me and I sprayed it grey. Wouldn't recommend you do that, really. I have plenty of spare bits of plastic and spare kits that could have been painted instead, but no, just a kit. Just a £15 Cessna. Yeah, that's fine. Anyway, the rudder and the tail surfaces, as with pretty much every other component, has a bit of a seam line down the middle and needed sanding. There was a lot of sanding. We're putting the horizontal surfaces on first after considerable sanding, before they will be joined by the vertical surface after that had received considerable sanding. In fact, I think they should just put on the box, sanding is required. Please come to grips with this before parting with your cash. Maybe a little bit rude. KP are a bit of a kit quality randomizer. Sometimes they'll make something which is just beautiful. It's up there with the best short run kits, and other times they do ones where the wingspan is 2% short, the windows don't fit in the holes, the instructions don't make sense, and you feel like throwing it out the window, and it actually spends more of the time sitting next to the desk rather than on the desk. I wonder if you can tell which one this is. Anyway, on to the painting, and I'm going back to the insignia red and spraying the entire thing in that colour. Originally, this was actually going to be an undercoat, and I was going to put a much glossier, brighter red on it. For two reasons I didn't. One, I kind of like this. It's a little dark, I think, just a little. But it looked good enough that I didn't feel I needed to brighten it up. And the other reason is I could not be bothered. There we go. I admitted it. I was just being lazy. So I just gave it a couple of coats of this red and gloss varnished it and left it at that. There were three options on the box. Again, unboxing video if you want to see that. I did ask people what colour they thought I should do, and this was the winner. It was partly the winner because I wanted to do it more than the others, and it was also partly the winner because it genuinely won. If you are interested in taking part in silly polls like this, don't forget to subscribe or become a channel member. Sometimes I might throw it out there that channel members get to decide what colour I do a kit. You never know. Details at the end of the video if you're interested, and thank you to my channel members that are already there. Look at this little Canadian flag on the tail, now that I've done shamelessly plugging my own channel. The decals actually went on really well. Again, sometimes with KP they have a tendency to disintegrate, but these ones were absolutely fine. The ones to be particularly wary of are the long ones like these two on the fuselage. However, I'm pleased to see that in this particular kit I had no problems with them. I'm particularly fond of the polar bears on each half, which is probably why this version struck me as being the obvious one to do. Anyway, that wonderful feeling of peeling all of the tape off of the windows. I had never actually painted... I say never actually painted. Because I'm still quite new with an airbrush, this is the first time that I had a high-wing aircraft, so I was a little bit cautious about the way that it was going to turn out, whether the paint was going to bleed and things like that. Honestly, it came out really well. The glazing's actually really clear, and you can see the interior fairly well. Could still be better, but it kind of justifies, in my opinion, the detail that I put on the inside. However, the holes for the wheels, which are comprised of these stupid fiddly bits that didn't really make sense on the instructions, and it doesn't tell you about the angle, and like other manufacturers would specifically make it so that the angles of the wheel and the fuselage align. Not entirely sure what KP were thinking, but it wasn't about ease of construction. I had to drill out the holes, as you saw there, to make them bigger, and then fit these little stems, glue them in place. They were not happy to stay in place, but I got them to stay in place. At one point I was seriously considering taking them off and starting again because they just didn't quite look right. It might just be the shape of the aircraft. This is not something that I've really made before. It's a light aircraft, high wing, monoplane. It's a bit unusual. I think they're fine, and well, I don't know. When it's sitting down, you'll see. Anyway, jumped ahead a little bit. I glued the propeller blades on, which have also been painted. Did that off camera, not entirely sure why. Painted the legs and the wheels as well. And then it's got these little antenna thing on top. One of them is somewhere buried in the carpet. Don't know what happened to it, other than it fell. The other three are placed nicely. I do intend to try and find the fourth one. It's probably not going to happen. Maybe in 10 years' time. I don't know. I've done that before, actually. I have found parts that I dropped from years and years and years ago and thought, should probably put that on the model, only to find that I threw the model out. Anyway, that is it. Slightly different one today. Like I say, there wasn't as much on the history, and it's partly because this is a relatively in-depth aircraft. Overall, how do I feel? Well, using my new rating system, I'm going to give this a it's alright Cessna out of 10. It's an interesting kit. It was a good build. I did enjoy it. That's the key thing. Did definitely enjoy it. Would recommend it if you want something a little bit different, but it is certainly not the easiest kit to make. As long as you go into this with correct expectations, this is going to be a little bit of a pain, or not necessarily a pain, that's unfair. It's going to take a bit more work. It's a short run kit. It's a KP kit. It's good. I like it. It's an unusual subject, but you've got to put the extra effort in. Finally, a quick shout out to my channel members, this time joined by Fenris Models. Thank you, my friend, for joining in this madness. If you are interested in feeding my tiger moth addiction, then please feel free to join. No worries if not, all video content will still be available for the general public. And finally, if you want to follow me on Twitch, please do. If you want to hit that subscribe and the notification bell and the like, again, please do. It is all appreciated. Other than that, stay tuned for another video fairly soon. Thank you for watching. And let me know if you have kits like this that spend far too much time sitting waiting to be finished rather than actually being finished. Yeah, again, thanks and goodbye.